the reason we did this piece of work is probably twofold, really. About 500,000 people a year die in England, and how society supports people to have a good death is a critically important issue for every citizen and every family. So we were interested to look at the way in which health services are utilised in the run-up to death as part of understanding that issue. But also, from work we've done before, it's really clear that activity in the last period of life is a very major driver of total health service resource use. And when we look at forecasts of future population growth, it's clear that just through the play of demographics over time, that we're about, as a country, to head into a period where the number of deaths per year is going to rise quite significantly. And it was our observation that that if the current pattern of utilisation is simply replicated into that future, then it will have very major issues for health service resources. And then bringing those two issues together, there's this third dimension, really, which is around, one of the languages for it is around value. And this nagging question that I think many of us have, in that some of what we now do for people in the latter period of their lives in terms of health service interventions may not actually be helping them, and it may actually be damaging. And you often have conversations with people, particularly based on their own personal experience, but also talking to clinicians who are involved in end-of-life care on a regular basis, where people talk about this, but realise that that the challenge of addressing it requires really extensive conversations about what's important to people, what we as a society want, the conditions under which medicine operates, or the social expectations rather under which medicine operates. And so we wanted to do this work to try to make sure that when that conversation happens, and of course it's happening to some extent now, but as that conversation is taken forward, if we really want to have a conversation about what constitutes a good death, what's the role of the health service in that, how can we make sure that what we do is best value for the recipients of that care, and also for the public purse, of course, but that's almost like a side effect. It's critical that as we head into that conversation, we're really well informed about what happens now. And so in our work, we simply wanted to describe as thoroughly as we could the ways in which health services resources are currently used in the last 2 years of people's lives, how that varies, how it varies by the type of death, how it varies for different groups in society, and the report does show that. It does show variation. It does show that for some aspects of end-of-life care, the experience is different depending on where you are in our society. So we wanted to do a really good job of that in order to provide a platform for local conversations about what people really want from this aspect of care. It's fundamentally important. It's a fundamental part of being human, but it's also fundamentally important for the use of health service resource, and it isn't amenable to technocratic solutions. So what we hope this report is going to do is provide a really good platform to enable people locally to have conversations between clinical colleagues, between colleagues and the public critically about, is what we see at the moment what we really want? And if it isn't, what do we need to do together to change that? So we really hope that the report can make a useful contribution to that discussion and that debate, and that out of that we can start to improve the experience of end-of-life care for individuals and for society as a whole.